Before we begin, if you enjoy stories that warm the heart, heal the soul, and remind us that life is still worth believing in, subscribe to the channel. Here you will find narratives that touch, reflect, and transform. Take a deep breath and come listen to this story. John woke up at 5:47 every morning, always at the same moment. Without an alarm clock, without haste, without enthusiasm. The small apartment carried the smell of reheated coffee, old papers, and worn wood. The curtains allowed the light to enter softly, but they could not illuminate his soul. He showered in 5 minutes, put on a blue shirt, a neutral tie, polished shoes. Everything organized, everything predictable. He moved with mechanical precision, as if his body knew what to do, even while his mind remained distant. The path to the bank was always the same. 3 blocks of cracked sidewalks, a bakery with the smell of burnt bread and strong coffee, a traffic light that seemed to prolong the morning forever. The old beggar with his out-of-tune harmonica played lonely notes that John pretended not to hear. The bank building was a concrete box, where routine suffocated any trace of life. The air conditioning was too cold, the hallways filled with low voices. The smell of paper and burnt coffee blended together, as if marking the passage of time without emotion. He sat at the same desk every day, organized documents, answered emails, approved loans, denied dreams. Each click, each signature was repetition, a silent dance with emptiness. At noon, the restaurant near the bank received his standard order: rice, grilled chicken, vegetables. He sat alone, eating slowly, watching people laugh and talk, feeling an almost painful distance. At 6 p.m., he returned home, turned on the television without watching, showered, ate dinner alone, slept, and when he woke, everything began again. The silence surrounding him was heavy, as if every object, every wall, carried the echo of a life he was not living. Loneliness no longer hurt. It simply existed, and John no longer knew the difference between living and surviving. Her name still lived in the apartment, Clara, in every corner, in every object. There was a piece of her he did not know how to put away. The blue mug in the cupboard, the red scarf hidden behind the clothes, an old photograph in which she smiled at the camera, as if she foresaw what was coming. She had left 3 years earlier. One unexpected accident, one moment, and John's life had become a colorless routine, a repetition of gestures, an emotional hiding place. His pain was invisible. He did not cry. He did not complain. He did not allow himself to feel, because feeling meant admitting that hope still existed, and that hurt more than the emptiness. Every night before sleeping, he reviewed the last moments with her, the promises never fulfilled, the trips postponed, the words trapped in his throat. He carried guilt. Guilt for not seeing the signs sooner. Guilt for letting work consume him. Guilt for not making her his priority. The silence of the house was his refuge and his prison. The walls seemed to whisper memories he tried to ignore. Every object, every smell, every sound brought back images he did not want to relive. And deep down, one question hammered his mind. Could I ever feel joy again? He had no answer, because life, for him, had become merely surviving. Until the next day, the emptiness was absolute. But John did not know it was only an invitation to find the life he had abandoned. That Monday, something changed. The office door opened with hurried steps. A living breath, a smile that did not belong in a bank. Good morning. I'm Sophia. She carried a folder, but it felt like she carried light. She looked at every person in the room, as if she wanted to feel every heart. When she reached John's desk, "You're Mr. John, right?" They said you're the one who understands these reports best." He looked up. He was not used to being noticed. "That's me. Then you're going to have to teach me how to survive in here." John felt something move inside him. Something small, almost imperceptible, but enough to break years of silence. She was curious, persistent, but human. Not demanding, just inviting. Throughout the day, John watched her interact. She asked the questions no one asked. Looked people in the eyes, trying to understand them. Not just hear them, feel them. And in that moment, John realized he was not ready to feel, but he also did not want to turn away. The following days brought tension and closeness. "You talk little, but you think too much," Sophia said during a pause. "The bank doesn't pay for thinking. It pays for executing," he replied, dryly. She didn't accept the answer. "You don't seem like someone who only executes." The words lingered in the air, like an unanswered question, a mirror of something John had forgotten. Life is more than completing tasks. One morning, in the elevator, "Have you ever been happy here?" she asked. He answered without thinking. "Before." The silence that followed was heavy. John realized he could no longer ignore his own emptiness. He tried to distance himself. She remained close, not through insistence, but through humanity. By reminding him that feeling was still allowed. The conflict was not at work. It was inside John. He was torn between the fear of starting again and the need to truly live. On Friday, John found her crying in the office bathroom. "My father is sick, and I don't know if I can handle everything," she whispered. When he asked if she wanted help, she said no. But her eyes told the truth. "John, do you still believe life can get better?" she asked, her voice trembling. He answered, "No." In that moment, something broke inside him. He realized he was teaching her the same emptiness he had cultivated to survive his own pain. That night, he came home and collapsed. He cried for the first time in years. He felt every piece of sadness, every regret, every guilt. The silence around him seemed heavier, but also more human, because at last, he was feeling. He understood that ignoring pain would not make it disappear, and that to survive, he would have to face life head-on. The next morning, he found her message. "Thank you for listening." Even without words. Something small and simple, yet it touched him deeply. He realized that being present was already a form of love. He remembered Clara, how she always said, "Don't hide from life, John." And he understood. He was not living, he was hiding. On the bus, he watched people. Their smiles, the sunlight on the windows, the wind moving the trees. He felt part of the world again. He noticed gestures he used to ignore. A sincere greeting, shared laughter. A look that said you matter. Life did not need to be grand. It could begin with small moments. Simple acts he had let pass by. It was the awakening that he could choose. That he could love again. That he could live. On Monday, John did not put on his tie. A small gesture, almost meaningless to anyone else. But for him, it was a symbolic rupture. As if telling his reflection in the mirror, "Today, I will not hide completely." The walk to the bank felt different. Same streets, same people, the same old man playing the harmonica. But the sound reached his chest. For the first time in years, he did not look away. "Good morning," he said, leaving a few coins. The old man smiled. And John felt something he had not felt in a long time. The lightness of belonging to the world. When he entered the office, Sophia was already at her desk. She looked up. "You're different." He smiled slightly. "I think I'm trying." He couldn't focus on numbers that morning. His mind wandered through memories, emotions, questions. He had never allowed himself to ask. At lunch, instead of going alone, he stopped by her desk. "Would you like to have lunch with me?" She hesitated for a second, surprised. Then she smiled. Of course. In the restaurant, the silence between them was no longer heavy. It was comfortable. There was peace in simply being there. Sharing a table, 2 stories, 2 pains. "My father is having surgery tomorrow," she said. "Do you want me to go with you to the hospital?" She swallowed hard. "You would do that?" "Yes." And he realized that courage does not come from the absence of fear, but from the decision not to let fear rule your life. That afternoon, John asked for a transfer. Not to escape, but to begin again. He requested the vacation he had postponed for years. He called a therapist, and when he left work, he walked to the cemetery. He sat before Clara's grave. "I survived, but now I want to live." The wind moved the trees. He closed his eyes and, for the first time, felt not only longing, but gratitude. The following days were like learning to walk again. John started therapy, bought a bicycle, returned to the piano, an instrument abandoned since Clara's passing. His hands trembled at first, but little by little, the music returned. Not perfect, but alive. He accompanied Sophia to the hospital. They sat side by side, talked about everything and nothing. They laughed. They cried. Her father recovered. Over time, John realized he didn't need to forget Clara to move forward. He could honor her memory by truly living. He changed small habits. He cooked, called old friends, walked at sunset. Life did not transform all at once. But every gesture was a new brick in the construction of something greater. He and Sophia did not rush. What grew between them did so slowly, like everything that is solid. One autumn afternoon, sitting on a park bench, she held his hand. "You seem at peace." "I'm learning." And for the first time, John truly believed it. Months later, John was no longer the man who woke up at 5:47 feeling nothing. He still woke early, but now with purpose. He had changed departments, reduced his workload, made space for life. One bright morning, he walked down the same street as always. The old man still played the harmonica. John sat beside him and listened. The world felt quietly at peace. Later, he met Sophia at the cafe on the corner. "You know," he said, "I thought my story ended when I lost Clara." Sophia squeezed his hand. "Maybe it just changed chapters." John smiled, and finally understood. Starting again does not erase the past. It gives meaning to it. Sunlight passed through the window, illuminating Sophia's face. And John felt something he thought he had lost forever: hope. If this story touched your heart, perhaps it can also touch the heart of someone you love. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment telling us what you felt, or which part of this journey spoke to you. And if you can, share this story with someone who is going through a difficult time. Sometimes, all a person needs is to know that starting again is still possible. And it is. It always is.